Welcome to the Effects Loop. I'm Diaz.
I'm Chris.
I'm Marissa.
I'm Scott.
We're keeping you in the loop for the guitar community. This episode is brought to you by String Joy. They bring you joy with your strings. It's great. So if you haven't checked it out, we had Scott, the head honcho over there, on last week, actually.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks.
2 weeks ago.
Was it 2 weeks ago?
It was episode 20.
Yeah, so if you listen to what they said, it was a few weeks ago. But he talks a lot about String Joy and what they're about, but definitely go check them out. I just actually got in some sets with a Wound G, which I've never tried before, which was actually a big, kind of a different beast than I was expecting. But it's a really good company. You can email them and chat with them and see what will work for you, and they'll get a set headed out your way. So if you go check them out at stringjoy.com, they've got a YouTube. Scott does a lot of explaining about certain things on there. I'm sure you've seen them on Facebook. So go check them out. And if they got a comment section, let them know that you came there because of us. Let them know that, what them sponsoring us is helping them out. So we'll move on to what's new. So Chris, what do you got?
I got a couple of things this week. I got a Shure SM7B, which I'm actually using now for the app. So far it's been good. I think Marissa's used it a little more than me this week, because you actually streamed like the day we got it. So
Yep.
I listened to it while I was at work, so it seems like it's doing a pretty good job. I was a little iffy of if it was really worth the hype and all that, but so far so good. And then I got, what is this? A Hotone Britwind. It's one of their new pedal board amps. So it's like a pedal that's an amp, and it's got their box in a box and Marshall in a box kind of amps in it, and so far that's been pretty fun too. And it's gonna be nice not actually having to carry an amp head around, and I can just take that because it has a DI out, and if I really wanted to drag a cab I could.
Does it do a speaker sim?
Yes.
Nice.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so I plugged that into my interface late at night just to see how well it did, and actually sounded pretty fair through there, I think.
That's cool. Marissa,
So-
what do you got that's new?
Nothing. I guess my big what's new is for next week.
Oh, you got something new coming next week?
I guess kinda.
We do.
Well, I get a year older.
Oh, yeah.
So
Wait, am I supposed to know?
We were talking about it in our group chat today.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't been paying much attention to anything really. So
My
Well, I
birthday's
think
on Tuesday.
everyone who's listening to this should go into our Facebook group and pay close attention to what day it is and wish her a happy birthday when it hits.
even though it'll be a day after.
That's fine.
okay.
I mean, you can just spoil our fun, Chris.
Jeez.
Try and do something nice for Marissa.
Gosh.
Gosh.
It's okay.
Jinx.
Scott, what do you got new this week?
I didn't get anything guitar related this week, but
You
I
got
did
that mic
get.
stand.
I did. I'm using it right now. This is it's working pretty well. I finally admitted that I use my mic constantly, and instead of having a temporary mic stand kind of just set up in my house, I got one of the tabletop boom extension arms, so it's a little more permanently installed at my workstation here. But the other thing, I posted on an Instagram group a what's in the box moment, and that was a Novation Launchkey 61 keyboard. So I actually am picking back up piano and getting more into I've been doing a lot of this Ableton production work, and so I was like, you know what, it's time to get a proper MIDI controller instead of just scribbling everything out. And so I'm brushing up on that skill of an instrument I haven't played in 15 years.
Fun.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. I am rusty. I'm very
Yeah.
rusty. Diaz, what's new with you, man?
I got the strings in, and
You get 'em on yet?
I think that's it. I got a knob from Keeley for my compressor.
Nice.
So I lost the knob on it, but nothing big happened this week. I worked like I don't know, 14 days in a row. So I kind of went on a Facebook hiatus, and that was pretty cool. I muted our group chat and everything. I kind of went out, not completely off the grid, but I was working so much and all that, and just Facebook people are just being people. So I took a break, and that's pretty much it. So like a lot of this, what's new? Like it really is new to me too. Like I didn't know. I saw the box on our Instagram, but I didn't know it was in it. So that's pretty much what's going on with me. I'm supposed to be picking up some pedals this week. The guy I got that Valatin pedal from, I bought a few more, and we're kind of hooking up and making a deal. So hopefully I'll have some cool what's news next week. So
Okay, quick side topic with the Valatin stuff. I noticed some exchange on our Instagram with them. Do they do pedal toppers? Did I see that right?
I couldn't hear you.
They do like it's not a barefoot button. It's
the pedal toppers. Yeah. I was trying to like see, when they were going to start selling and everything, because I'd like to get some and try it out.
Yeah, they looked a lot like the Amazon ones I picked up a few weeks ago.
Yeah, they kind of barefoot buttons. I love the look of the barefoot buttons one. The ones that you got, Scott, I don't kind of like because they're just kind of flat.
Yeah, they're not domed. They're just flat across the top. But what I do really like about them is that they're about 2/3 the size of a barefoot button.
Yeah.
So I've got them on like my 50/50, my tonal recall, and like my flat light.
Mm-hmm.
Where you've got a single enclosure size, but you got dual buttons on it. It's really nice for that because like a barefoot button next to a barefoot button on that size, like they almost hit.
Touching, yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes you're covering up the LED or those kind of things. So, but typically a barefoot button is a much higher quality than the Amazon ones that I have.
Yeah, I always like the barefoot buttons. I only had an issue like once with them, and that's because when I had them on a Strymon pedal, they didn't work that well.
Did you have the wrong type of barefoot button? Because there's like two sizes.
No. I had the V1 was supposed to work with them because they're normal sized pedals. But they were like, it was weird because like I went to tap in a tempo with a barefoot button on, and it didn't tap correctly. Like and like I would press it, and sometimes it wouldn't like make full contact. So it was just kind of weird.
Yeah, you had them on too deep.
Yeah.
And so it was like the barefoot button would bottom out before the switch would fully go down.
Yeah, like, and I tried putting paper in the barefoot button and like trying to like adjust it, and it still didn't work that well. So
yeah, a little piece of electrical tape is what I did on the one pedal I had a problem with on that.
Yeah, but no, hopefully I get those pedals this week and have a little bit of fun with them. So let's move on to gear news. So Eastwood came out with a classic HBTL. It's been I hopped on Facebook a couple times. I'd just jump on and check notifications, make sure nothing crazy was going on.
Mm-hmm.
I think Chris and I both tagged you in posts that involved us, didn't we?
Wait, what?
I tagged you in a post for this. I was like, I am?
Yeah.
Dang it.
I'm getting robot.
Yay, internet. Anyway, I tagged you in a post that I saw for that. I was just like, Diaz, I immediately thought of you when I saw it.
Yeah. So they're doing the normal colors, or three of the normal colors that were offered. They're doing kind of a pelham blue, they're doing a red, and the gold. The only other color that they offered in it for the Dave Grohl is the black. I think they might have had like a purplish one. I think I've seen it, but
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that
we
was
did.
only for Dave Grohl. That wasn't a model that they
Okay,
put out.
I think we skipped over what this is. So
What do you mean?
let's back
Oh.
this up just a hair here. So
It's the Dave-
Eastwood,
it's the Trini Lopez guitar.
it's definitely a take on a Trini Lopez look.
It's like, besides for the horn, I mean that's the Trini Lopez. The Trini Lopez actual signature model had a trapeze bridge. This has a hardtail with um more towards the Dave Grohl style.
Mhm.
The it's a little bit wider if you were like standing it up looking at it. And the horns are a little bit, I guess, duller is the word I'm looking for.
Less Mickey Mousey.
Yeah, but it's the cool thing about it is when I Leon Wright from Pelican Noiseworks is a huge Dave Grohl fan as well. He has a DG335, which is the Dave Grohl signature. He's got a black one, and I lust over it. It's beautiful. But these guitars, Gibson never really put out a solid line of them. They put out limited editions, and those guitars have skyrocketed in price. I think
Yeah.
they've like doubled in price pretty much. Like you see them going for $6,000-$7,000. This one right here is right around what the $600-$700 mark.
So what's interesting about this, and I never really realized this. This is from the Eastwood Custom Shop. It looks like they kind of run off like a Kickstarter model,
Yeah, they've
where
done that for a while now. If they
Have
want to
they?
do, like, yeah, oh yeah. If they want to do, what's the custom shop? It's usually a limited run, or it's enough to get the line going, is what they do, and they
Mhm.
kind of do it on their own thing. So
so you have
yeah.
to put down a $150 deposit now,
yeah,
and it
And
looks
then-
like they're doing like December 2018s when they're looking to deliver all this. And at that point, I think you owe another $500 plus shipping.
yeah. So my birthday's in September, guys, and Christmas is coming up. So if you wanted to buy me one, I wouldn't be upset.
Diaz, I will give you $5 towards one.
Yes, I'm 1/100th of, well, 1/150th of the way there.
Okay.
But it looks like they're doing left-handed as well.
Yeah, I noticed
Really
that too.
cool. I think Eastwood's really good about doing left-handed stuff.
So does Eastwood use World Music Company?
What's that? I don't know what that is.
That's who makes a bunch like Chapman and like
I don't know who
it's-
they use.
it's one of the Far East factories. Like that's what I kind of figured is like they need to have enough interest to make it worth doing.
Yeah,
So like there's a minimum mortar or whatever, and that doesn't matter like what the colors are, but the shape matters or whatever. And so they have to gauge enough interest to that. I think it's a cool model.
yeah, it's great looking. They even have close to the Firebird headstock, which is you've got to have the Firebird headstock for that body to look right.
So do you find it interesting that the red one
Yeah, I found that weird.
is a normal F-hole? It's not the diamond F-holes,
I
like
didn't
the
catch
gold and the
that.
blue one.
Hold on.
It's got
Oh,
a
no,
pick
no.
guard.
Uh-oh. Hold on. I about had problems. I clicked the wrong link. I almost started watching Stewart from Mad TV. So
I sent you that link.
Yeah. You guys can check out the pre-app and maybe hear about that. Oh gosh, I'm afraid to get back into it. I'm in hostage mode. But no, I didn't notice that. But that is kind of weird that they do a normal F-pull on that.
Is that more closer to what the Trini Lopez was?
No, Trini Lopez was the diamond cutout.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So pretty much the main difference between the Trini Lopez and the Dave Grohl is the bridge. There's no trapeze bridge.
Okay. Are the humbuckers different between
Well,
the
I'm
two?
sure
of them?
they are. I'm sure they're more towards. I'm sure Dave Grohl's are hotter. I don't know which pickup they had, and let's see. Oh my gosh.
No, these are cool.
They got all these. See, that's the thing too, is when you find these, they the people make copies, but they put the Gibson logo on them, and it's
That's
that's
less
just
okay.
wrong in my opinion. So
Yeah, these, I mean, at $650, this seems like a really good deal if these are good players. I need to.
And I've heard a lot of people love their Eastwood guitars, so I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure Michael Newman's probably going to order one. I want to. I don't have the money to, but I might. Maybe if I sell some stuff, I might order one. My wife just said no, so I guess I'm not.
I mean, you could realistically sell 2 pedals.
Yeah, I could sell a couple pedals. I could sell pretty much the guitars I had put up would cover the price, or the pedals I have put up for sale would cover the price. But let's see. Well, I guess with that's pretty much all we got to say about that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Chris, why don't you tell us about the Stewart Stow-Away travel guitar?
It's a Strat styled. But the main thing about this, like I said, it was a travel guitar, but instead of it being like just small or like folding, like most people would assume, the neck actually completely comes off, and it's got how did they say they put it? It was like a clamp, I think is what you mentioned.
They call it the
Clip
clip joint neck connector system.
Yeah, so I don't exactly fully understand what that is, but it like ties in with thumb screws. Like they really don't show you the clipping system at all, other than the thumb screws.
There's a lot that I have questions about this.
For sure.
So we saw the Sierra guitar.
CR.
That's CIARA at NAMM, and we actually put the video up. We had the little like boomerang video or whatever, of how it collapses into itself, or like the neck bends down and it becomes, a small, easy to travel stuff, or setting. But like this just seems like so much work.
Yeah, this is.
Like, I understand you want to travel with a guitar, but I'd rather just go through the hassle of having to put a guitar in a gig bag and put it in overhead than have to deal with this.
Well, I've actually flown a few times where I just took with a Strat where I just took the neck off it and just let both sit in like my carry-on bag.
Yeah.
And you get a little hassle when you're going through security, but like if this is screwing, you're removing the strings and you're taking the neck off. 2 thumb screws versus 4 wood screws with a screwdriver is not that much different in labor, if you ask me, other than just you have to carry a screwdriver.
Well, are you allowed to take a screwdriver on a plane?
I think so.
I don't know. I can't say anything. TSAs take me into the back room one.
I mean, my favorite TSA story is I left my Leatherman in my bag and got caught on the airport on my return flight. So I definitely got there with it and got through O'Hare carrying that knife, which made me feel super safe. But
no, I went through. I flew out of Knoxville, which is like, if you've ever flown in or out of Knoxville, it's one of the smallest airports. Like, I got there the first time I flew out of there like 2 hours early, or like it was like an hour and a half early, because I'm like, oh gosh, I've got to hurry up and I don't want to get stuck. Da, da, da. And the guy's like, no, you're good. You got to go to the other side of the airport, and I could see it. He's like, no, it's like right over there, dude. I think there's like 4 terminals, It's like really small, and
Oh, you mean like 4 gates?
yeah, like
Okay.
there's four gates. I don't know.
Because I was gonna say like O'Hare is like 4 or 5 terminals, and that's like a massive airport. But
No, 4 or 5 gates. I think there's
Okay.
like 12 employees. Like I think the pilot had to go and cash someone out at the like little stand, and then he was like, "All right, now we got to close up because we're flying out, guys. Let's go." You know, they didn't even announce stuff over the speaker. The pilot just turned around and said, "Hey guys, buckle up. We're about to leave. Okay, thanks." It's a pretty small airport, but I accidentally took one of those. You know, that little credit card pocket knives.
oh yeah,
Yeah, I forgot I had that in my wallet. My grandfather passed away, and I was flying up to Philly, and like I just like pretty much it was like Friday I found out, or like Thursday I found out he passed away, and then Friday morning I was on an airplane at like 5 a.m. So they like took me to the back, and I was like already kind of a wreck, and they're just like freaking out. She's like, no, it's like a $4,000 fine or whatever. And she's like, you just got to pay the fine. I'm like, that's not fine with me. But then while I was in Philly, they sent a letter saying, no, we're just kidding. We're not charging people with that anymore. So it's kind of a weird thing.
Okay.
Did anything legal happen to you, Scott? With like having the knife?
no, you just throw it away.
Like that's bullcrap. Knoxville had me like freaking out. Like I was waiting for a guy in like a black suit to be like, all right, come on, and like put a white glove on, and you just see a tube of lube come out.
Oh no, like I mean, I get pulled aside by security whenever I travel with like equipment for work. So like the microphones I carry sometimes look like a gun, and I always carry them on because I don't want my mics going through United's baggage claim.
Oh, I thought maybe they just had it out for tall people. They're like, no, look at that shifty-eyed tall guy right there.
No, I mean,
Get him.
Bear in mind, I have pre-check, so I'm going through the expedited security lane. So they generally treat you pretty nicely over there. But okay, so getting back on topic, because I have a massive grievance right now. I've watched 4 videos with the sound off from Stewart Guitars. I've yet to see one of them where they actually break down the neck.
Oh,
That was pretty cool about Ciara guitars, because they're like, no, look, bam.
Yeah, you don't even have to
You're
take the strings off. Oh yeah, finally, I'm on the 5th video. Yeah, it's just 2 thumb screws.
That's silly.
Like
So
they have a video of how to change the strings, and they're all shot in an iPhone vertical mode in a YouTube video. So it's like 2/3
Diaz
is just
quality.
black. Yeah.
they hired me. That's actually me. Sorry. So I made those videos for them. That was
All right. So yeah, I'm not nuts about this, especially at the price point, because these things start at $680 and they go to about $900.
No.
You have to pay $200 more for humbuckers. What type of bull crap is that?
I mean, yeah. My other like, I get a bad feeling about this guitar because since it's a headless design, so they have the micro tuners, but they only have the micro tuners, and like
Yeah.
you'll be turning those all day because you actually have to like slack the strings on this thing significantly to get them off, get that neck off. So it's just like something about this just doesn't.
I give it a solid C plus. It's like you did the project, it's functioning, and that's about it.
Yeah, I would still just do buy
Yeah.
a Squire and put locking tuners on it and just take the neck off. So you can de-string and string it very quickly.
Yeah.
That's what I'd do.
Well, and so Fudge Ferocious this week, or well, they've announced it before, but like they're I guess they're going live with it. The Octave John mods. So Scott, why don't you tell us about that?
So yeah, the Octave John is a polyphonic digital fast tracking octaver that can be added to effectively any of their effects. Looks like they're kind of doing a phase 1 rollout. So the Gray Stash, the Cattail, the Demon, and the Demon King. all have the option right now as of August 11th. So that was yesterday as of recording, so Saturday. Those are all now available. I think it's $100 extra on all new orders. And you can also send them your existing models for $125 plus, I think, plus shipping.
Yeah, that's
So
pretty cool.
I think it's pretty cool, especially since Fuzzbrocious is mostly a direct sales model. It lets you like noodle with their stuff and make it what you want. I mean, an Octover plus a lot of their effects on a boutique basis. What are the ranges of prices here? It's like $245 to $260. I guess the Demon King gets a little more, but that's not crazy for a 2-in-1 effects pedal.
Yeah, well, and they've also got it through some retailers, Rusted Music, Chicago Music Exchange, Coast Sonic, and Sound Parcel Music Do. So and there's even a Canadian store, eh? But
Oh yeah, don't you know?
don't you know it? Accent you
Why
shall
you look at
receive.
me?
Okay, can we just like take like a nice 5-second moment for acts and you shall receive being the name of a store? That's
Love
like
that.
that's great. That's nice. Wow. It's punny. But I think it's really cool. So like, and especially because a lot of the people who use Fuzzbrocious are like high gain people. They're really big with people who do like Doom stuff and like just they're not doing the light gain. Oh, it sounds super pretty. They're doing the like we're making some fun noise pedal stuff. So this really, I think, and it kind of expands their line too, because they've just kind of doubled the amount of pedals that they're selling with that. You know what I'm saying? Like you got it with or without. So they're opening up their SKUs a little bit more. But it's really cool, and a lot of the stuff they do. I mean, I don't care who you are. An octave is always fun, even if you're just at home making some noise. It's always a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it's octaves. Sometimes they only work with very specific effects.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty. Oh, Accent You Shall Receive actually has KTRs in stock.
Well, why don't you pick one? Don't order it because you'll never get it.
No, it's in Brantford, Ontario. I might actually order it and deliver it to my office because I'm going to be up there in 2 weeks in Toronto.
Ooh.
Get some poutine while you're up there.
Oh, I should. This may happen because this is Canadian dollars too, eh?
Hey? How many loonies?
Yeah. Well, it's prices in U.S. dollars.
Oh.
Never mind. Price in
Is it
Canadian.
more expensive?
Whoa! Canadian dollar is not strong right now. All right.
What is this, like an economics podcast?
Uh-huh.
No, this
Scott's
is
just looking up like comparison on money. He's over here just giggling. He's like, oh, take that, Canada.
The price jumped $100 from U.S. to
Oh.
Canadian. So yeah. But you know, if that's in stock, I could totally flip that.
Scott, the Canadian pedal smuggler.
I mean, no, officer, I'm not smuggling pedals across the border.
So
Anyway,
Do you have to pay like an export tax on it or something? Maybe like for taking it across the border.
I could argue
Brings-
it's for work.
Can you bring me some good whiskey? That's definitely for work.
I won't be checking a bag,
Uh,
and I fly through the business airport, not the big international airport.
do they have
So
like?
there's no duty free there.
Do they have legit Mounties like you like we're walking by and they look like you would expect them to look, or do they look like regular police officers?
RCMP officers are like our version of their version of the FBI. So like they're around in like a bulletproof vest usually.
So they're not riding a moose with a red hat,
No.
or no, it was a khaki colored hat, red jacket, ride a moose.
Do you guys remember Due South back in the day?
Barely.
No, but I watched Degrassi a couple times.
Okay, never mind then. Let's just move on. This got out of hand.
All right. So this week's topic, we're actually, I guess, one of our bad habits that we wish we'd picked earlier. Mine is manufacturing methamphetamines to get my cancer treatments, and hanging out with my friend Jesse.
Thanks,
in our
Walter.
Winnebago. I was just gonna see how long I can go. And then there was Tuco. He was not a nice fellow. But yeah, bad habits that we wish we'd picked earlier. Marissa kind of stated that, because she's still in the learning phase, that it would be something really cool, like give little tips and pointers or stuff like that. So go on the Facebook group. Tell us what you wish you would have stopped doing a lot in time before you got in that bad habit. So I'd say one of my biggest bad habits is well, I'd say one of the things I wish I would have changed early on was not learning more theory or scales, stuff like that, different modes, and really expanding the way I play guitar, because I kind of got into that. I've played a lot of church music early on, so that 1-4-6 whatever, or 1-6-5-4, all that heavy delay. I kind of wish I would have expanded more when I was starting early. So, and I think a lot of people say that. I think I mentioned it before on the podcast that I had a friend, Ryan Miller, do 100 days of playing, and he learned new stuff the whole time. And now he's a phenomenal guitar player. He plays a lot of cool jazz stuff and everything like that. And that's kind of something I wish I would have fixed early on and not made a bad habit of staying into the norm, the major pentatonic and all that. So
You can definitely get trapped inside a box with particularly worship music, because a lot of stuff doesn't stray from a major scale.
Yeah, completely.
And you can be oh, I'm totally content in just this, because at that point, you haven't ever varied beyond it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of the normal stuff that people are used to hearing you complain about yourself, people who don't use their pinky more often. But we were talking about that in the pre-ep. If you want to go back and listen to people who do the Steve Ray Vaughan style really don't use the pinky too much.
You're skipping ahead.
I'm not skipping ahead.
That falls into bad technique.
Diaz
too.
is always where he wants to be.
I mean, so I definitely didn't pick up theory in more earnest until a few years ago, when I started getting Nashville numbers and just kind of unboxing. I just learned muscle memory scales. I never really learned what they're doing with each other, or oh, I should hop into this shape when I'm at this position in this chord and passing between them. I'm still really trying to build and connect the scales I know and the modes I know into something a little more serious.
Well, a lot of I know a lot of stuff that I've got to learn what it is. You know what I mean? So that's the cage system. I knew what it was and I used it, but I didn't know what I was doing. So there's kind of stuff like that too. Knowing what you're doing is always a great thing. And not just there's our episode title. Knowing what you're doing is always a great thing. But yeah, trying to figure out, putting a name to the method is always pretty cool too.
Yeah, it's a good thing. I mean, it helps so much in communicating too. I always love when an acoustic guitar player turns around and they're here's what I'm doing, and they just show me capo chords, what they're trying to do, and then I got to translate it, because the sheet music is always wrong, and all that kind of junk. And it's just if you could just say I'm playing the 3 chord, we'd be good, but it just helps you communicate better with musicians when you are all speaking the same language instead of, can't you see what I'm doing? Follow me.
Yeah.
I still love, my favorite thing will always be whenever I'm trying to tell a drummer what the drum beat in my head sounds like.
Oh, do you beatbox it to him?
I'm like, no, dude, I want the unts, 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 unts. And he's like, house music? No. Like, no, that's not it. And then trying to explain it's always fun. So
Have you ever tooled around with an actual drum machine and like, or a MIDI sequence and like actually went, oh, I want on the 1s and 3s and the 2s and 4s and on the ands, like actually ever ran through that side of it?
no, I haven't.
Okay. The more I'm diving into MIDI, the more I'm diving into that particularly. And it's really, now I'm sitting listening to the drummer a lot more than I ever did. Because for a while I was like, oh yeah, they're just playing the rhythm. And I'm like, not like, yeah, that was fun. But I wasn't like listening and comprehending and unbundling what they're doing. And now that like I can like think of it in terms of a drum loop and then see what they're doing, like it's more fun to listen to drums. But while we're on the topic of rhythm, why don't we get into my biggest thing I wish I learned, or a bad habit I developed, was practicing without a metronome. I got to like, it was last year I finally started practicing with a metronome again. And like I was always like, yeah, I don't need it. But like how much being on a fixed rhythm, you don't realize when you're noodling around at home how much you're speeding up and slowing down in a scale, or when you're playing a part or you're working on stuff. You don't always realize how much you're like adjusting the rhythm to fit what you feel comfortable playing with. And it's always a telltale sign of that beginning guitar player where they strum, stop, change their left hand to the chord they know, then start strumming again, and there's those awkward pauses between things. And it's like, dude, you just got to start playing with other people or playing with a metronome where they kind of force you to push through those transitions or to lock in.
Yeah. Well, I've got a metronome that I probably don't use as much as I should, because it makes me realize how bad my timing can be. It's that's definitely something too that's really good for beginners starting out with. Practice with the metronome, play along with the song and try to keep up. That also helps train your ear, where you're actually listening to other things. So when there's a lot of people when they start playing that expect like everyone to follow them, and they're not listening to the band they're playing with, and they're not listening to the drummer. I mean, a lot of people talk about how the bass player and the drummer really listen to each other, but they fit that pocket by doing that. But every musician has to listen to the drummer. That's your metronome.
Yeah, I mean, the classic adage is like you start slow and you build up speed. And that's another area where the metronome can actually guide your practice a lot. So say like you're learning a riff, it's 80 beats per minute. Set your metronome at like 40 and work your way through the riff where you're slowing down to concentrate on all of it, and then you slowly, add 5 BPM, and just kind of ramp it up. And then next thing you know, you're just able to nail parts. Like I learn parts faster doing it that way than like learning it without a metronome and then trying to throw a metronome into it.
So Tascam at one point came out with a CD player looking thing that actually was supposed to slow it down without changing the pitch.
Yep.
And a lot of people use that to practice with it. And that's like, I think one of the artists that endorsed it and was on their advertisement was Dave Mustaine, or the guy who was in Megadeth that like joined in. He's like, to learn all the parts, I slowed it down, and like that. But that's a common practice. Even in classical music, you don't start at the like. Whenever we used to do, I was in band and orchestra in middle school and all throughout high school and middle school. And that's one thing we did. Like when we went to competition, we'd sight read. We'd play it up to tempo and figure out where the parts were that were going to be a train wreck. You go to those parts and we slow down the tempo, and then we built the tempo back up. So it's a common practice in all, not just guitar, in all music. Start slow and work your way up. So that's another thing that people should really
And
try to do, and it helps break the bad habit of having bad tempo as well, because you're learning what tempo feels like. Like there's a lot of people who lead the who lead the orchestra, the conductors, that don't need a metronome. They just know what the tempo is. They've been doing it for so long, they've memorized how fast the tempo is.
yeah, well, I mean, they have gauges. Not all those guys are terribly perfect either, but I mean, we also we live in an age of smartphones, so everyone pretty much, there are free metronome apps. You know, there's no excuse not to have one at this point. And like, you know, you're talking about that Tascam product that used to be there too. You could put a CD in, and you could speed it up and slow it down. But nowadays, you can get there's a free version of Ableton Live. I think it's Live Lite, where you as long as you disable the save feature, you can still open it and edit stuff, and it's free. And in that, you can do time warping and scaling of like audio files without much correction. So there are tools out there still. Or
that's for sure. There are tools out there.
Hop on YouTube and hit the little gear thing and play it at 50% speed and then slowly ramp it up. But I don't know how good their pitch bending is. But
Chris, do you have any bad habits that you would like to pick?
I definitely need to actually like sit down and learn scales, because I never actually like learned them like at all. Like, what do they call it? The E blues minor or whatever, like the like most basic scale. That's the only thing I know. Scale wise.
Yeah.
But another one that y'all mentioned was the pinky thing. Oddly enough, like, I use my pinky more when I play bass than I actually do playing guitar. Which
why is that?
I have no idea. I don't know if it's just because I'm trying to actually, like, what would be a stretch between my like first and third finger is now having to actually be my first and fourth. If that's like what it's coming down to, or if it's just I somehow have a better technique on bass than I do guitar. That seems like that would be a very weird thing to have.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of like common stuff that you can find that are things that you would want to break the habit early. I get really bad about my bending technique sometimes. That's a good thing to practice as well, is bending and hearing pitch. Practicing with a tuner, stuff like that. And another thing that I learned later on that I wish I would have learned earlier on is like when it comes to bending technique, is definitely when you get to right about the note you're gonna hit, is to add some vibrato on it. That's I was reading an article and they said that's where Slash really excels, is his bending technique. And that's another thing. I guess one of the things is definitely learning techniques that will help improve your sound overall. But you've got certain techniques that are just something you want to stay away from. Like strumming patterns is something that is a good thing to learn early on. A tough thing that I see a lot of new players doing is nothing but downstrokes. Learning how to do an even downstroke and upstroke is something to practice early on as well. So
it's funny for me now because like I've for the most part moved away from playing acoustic guitar a lot, and so now when I'm playing electric guitar and doing lead lines and stuff like that, mostly I'm like creating like atmospheric pads and things like that. And then when it comes time to strum, I don't really follow much of a strumming pattern because like that would be too much to do.
Yeah.
And so like I'm only when I do strum, it's either like a brush stroke and sustain it, or like just downstrokes. And I'm like, this probably looks not technical. Like if anyone was actually like grading how I play.
There's a few songs that like you have to play nothing but downstrokes.
Yeah.
Is just the way that it sounds. We were talking about Smashing Pumpkins at one point, like Disarm. That's the song you've got to play nothing but downstrokes.
Well, I think that's part of the reason why it's such a like that's a song people learn pretty early on.
Yeah.
It's accessible in that way.
Yeah, very much so.
Diaz, you threw out one when we were talking in the pre-ep that I think is something I still definitely struggle with because it's very easily distracting, which is the don't practice with effects on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Thanks for reminding me. So one of the things that like I was talking about is playing with effects and having them so thick that it covers up what you're actually playing. So kind of like you've got your dry and your wet. I think the best way to explain it is kind of like there's a video that has a lady singing and you see the engineer. She's at a studio and the engineer's like pushing a bunch of buttons and it sounds amazing, but it pans over and it's her actually singing and it's god awful. And and I feel that's like what we do as guitar players sometimes. Every once in a while I like to I'll run whatever I'm playing. I'll split it and I'll hear a dry and I'll listen to it to hear what I actually sound like when I'm playing and what my guitar is actually sounding like. And if you can make that part of your playing sound better, just the dry part without any effects, almost before the amp as well, then it'll make your overall playing sound better. Because we do the U2 stuff and where we've got 50 million delays. You're running dual delays, dual reverbs, phaser if you're me, stuff like this, and it helps cover a multitude of bad things. It's like putting lipstick on a pig, but in the end it's still a pig, and you can really have just a bad sound. A lot of people say, oh, tones in the fingers, stuff like that, but your tone really does start with your dry signal, no matter what aspect you're really pinpointing with your listening. If it's your strumming, if you're strumming hard, if you're digging in too much into the string and it just sounds bad, that's affecting all the way to the end of your sound. And you can always sound better if that's the way your dry signal sounds. You can always go better from there. So that's another thing that I always when I learn new parts, I usually learn them either on an unplugged electric or on my acoustic guitar. So that way I can hear what it's going to sound, what the bass is supposed to sound like before I start adding effects and everything. And I try to make it sound good there before I start adding the effects and everything else.
Yeah, like I make a real big point that like I don't practice with my compressor on, for example, because I use my compressor to kind of smooth out my playing style and make it just more suitable for playing in a live environment. So like I want to develop good picking technique on my own. So not relying on a compressor is a good way to actually work on the way you play. Diaz, you hit on the classic phrase that tone is in your fingers thing that everyone always throws out. And while yes, tone is developed by how you're playing and in your hands, I would not say, I think people interpret that phrase to say like, oh, well, I wasn't born with Stevie Ray Vaughan's hands, so therefore I can never sound like him. Mm-hmm. I think there's like that's the whole like the illusion of what talent is as well, where like people are like, oh, well, he's just naturally talented and I'm not, and so therefore I'm never going to be that good. The tone is in your technique. It's not in your fingers. It's in like
that's true.
Developing good practices and putting that time and that effort into things. The whole 10,000 hours till you're a master at things is not entirely true, but it does hint at that the key to being great at something is practicing and putting that time in and those reps.
And I also want to say, so we're talking about practicing, and also, so one of the phrases, going through band and everything, you hear practice makes perfect, which is not true. If you're practicing wrong, it's not going to be perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect playing is what you want to really strive for. Don't practice it wrong and accept it. Try to fix it early on, because you're going to develop bad habits and you're going to develop bad technique and stuff like that. And the whole tone, where your tone comes from is a million different variables. Because if you think about it, your pickups are a big part of it, because, you know, that's what you're hearing is what the magnets and the pickups are picking up and sending out to your amp, which translates out, like it's a million different things. But one of the big things that you have to remember starting off is that the way you play, and like Scott said, your technique, that's the basis of your tone. Because I can change my technique and change the way I sound.
Yeah.
I've learned multiple different techniques to do the same thing. I can do the same. It's like learning different languages. I can play the same thing in the same notes in the same time, but with different techniques. So one of the techniques we talked about was the Stevie Vaughan technique. Stevie Vaughan has a real heavy downstroke, and then he comes up with an upstroke, but it's got a rhythm to it. And I can play that, and but it's the technique where, you know, it's digging in really hard going in your downstroke, and then your upstroke is a little bit lighter coming out of it, and it's got that feel to it. So that's another thing is that whenever you're starting out, learn different techniques, but the ones you do, you always want to do it well. Don't half butt anything you do when it comes to guitar, because that's going to show up in your playing. So that's like when it comes to fast scales, I didn't learn them, and it shows in my playing when I try to play a style that requires that. If that makes sense at all, or if I'm just rambling.
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to the practice with the metronome thing. Start at 60 beats per minute with a scale, and like just dog slow, and really just work until you get it perfect, and then bump it up, and then bump it up, and bump it up. I do that. I'll do a practice session of that at least once a month. I should do it more. Just lock in your left and right hands together. And I go from like 40 beats per minute all the way up to about, I don't know, 220, 240. And like, I'm screaming up and down the neck at that point. I just increased my ability to play faster by correcting my technique in that practice method. I mean, and that will be an hour of just the G major scale. Like, you want to watch TV or something while you're doing it, because you'll be bored to death. But, you know, it's using that time to really lock in and get yourself tuned up again.
Another good practice, warming up. So I think
stretch.
We're actually gonna stretch. Be careful. You've only got two hands. Take care of them. I'm gonna be 30 this year, and I've already got I've got some health problems when it comes to my muscles, but my left wrist is starting to feel. I've got early signs of carpal tunnel syndrome.
Oh man.
And it's one of those things where I'm very careful. I make sure I warm up before I play for long periods of time. I don't just go gunning out of the gate. I make sure that everything's ready to go. So take care of your body too. You see, there's the instruments where you can, or not the instruments, but the tools, the exercise tools for your hand. They look goofy and everything, but they actually, you know, you've got muscles. You build muscle by exercising them. That's something that definitely you should look into. I actually saw one that has a specific spot for the pinky to make sure you can stretch out your pinky and exercise it farther out. I saw that on Amazon today. I was looking around. So it's pretty cool stuff out there. But I think we can all agree it's mostly learning good technique early, taking care of everything, and not learning bad and avoiding bad habits early on can really guide you into being a great guitar player.
Can I offer one that we didn't have on the list as we kind of wrap
Yes.
this up?
No.
Okay.
Stick to the list, Scott.
Tell me.
No, I'm
I
just
made the
kidding.
list, so I should stick to it.
Why don't you just go type it really quick? I'm not paying enough attention to it. Where you?
Well, because when we were talking about this, Marissa was like, "Oh, good! I finally get some good advice as I'm getting better and learning." Stand up
Yeah.
when you're practicing.
Yeah.
How many of us were bedroom players for the longest time, and then we went up to like play with a group of people for the first time, and suddenly we were like, "Whoa! I can't stand up and play guitar." Remember how long it took
Or become
to get that?
Pentecostal. Yeah, become Pentecostal, and you'll have to stand for like 6 hours and play.
Well, like now it's second nature to me, but like when I took like a few years off of performing and I was only practicing sitting down at that point, I then stood up and like held the guitar. I'm like, wow, I can't play like this anymore.
Well, even then, your wrist, the way your wrist sets,
Yeah.
is going to be different. So, like you've got to practice. You want to practice, like you're going to play for the most part. It's a really good thing. That's like you get a lot of people who play these fast, like sweep picking, all this stuff on the top of the neck, but then they are standing up, and it's not as easy for them to get up there, and they struggle with it. So.
So I think we got through the list,
you
didn't
know-
we?
I think so.
Oh yeah, that was it.
Go team.
So yeah, congratulations,
We
guys.
stuck to a topic.
Participation
okay,
trophies for
so-
everybody.
Yeah. I think, let's see. Thanks for joining us.
Yes,
Yeah,
so.
that's where we're at. I can read. So leave us a review on iTunes. Go check us out over there and put something nice. If you want to put something mean, that's fine. Just direct it towards Scott. Follow us on Instagram at The Effects Loop. Go to our Facebook group. It's facebook.com/group/The Effects Loop. If you go to our Facebook page, you can follow the link there to the group. Check out our YouTube. If you have any comments, suggestions, or strung together obscenities, you can send them to theeffectsloop@gmail.com.
Or if you see new products that you want us to
Yeah.
talk about on the show, feel free to send them there. I've been following that method more now lately, where I will email what I see while we're making out our set list there. So if you're seeing stuff that we're missing and our news sources aren't covering it and you want us to talk about it, send it that way.
Yeah, so that'd be really cool too. Yeah, if you see anything, we're not going to do the whole. I guess we're going to avoid the posting a thing that we're recording in 3 hours. What should we talk about? But you can send it to our email and all that. And also one thing that we were kind of talking about was keep an eye out. We're going to launch a Patreon soon. We're still kind of hammering out the details. We're trying to make sure that we do something that's, right for you guys, that works for us. And we're not overextending ourselves and over-promising anything like that. So just keep your eye out. And we're going to be launching that in the near future. And, if you have something like a really cool idea, you shoot one of us a message or something, or shoot an email, and we'll take it into consideration. We make no promises, no guarantees. So, I think that about wraps it up. So, for the Effects Loop, I'm Diaz.
again.
Wait, oh, no, we want to thank our sponsor, Stringjoy. Oh my gosh. I almost forgot. Our best friends. Thanks to Stringjoy for sponsoring this episode. Check them out, stringjoy.com. They make excellent strings that are phenomenal to work with the guys too, because they want to get you the strings that work for you.
Yeah, and if they don't,
and
if your forced order doesn't work, they're wide open with returns, or they will replace the product with something that does work for you. So jumping in there, it's not a big risk. They will make everything right with you, and just don't spend 20 emails yelling at them and creating fake problems. Have legitimate discussions with them, and they will get you set up with what you need.
Send me 20 emails about a problem you're having, and I'll let you know that. But yeah, I don't suggest
Emails to
doing
Diaz
that.
are not safe for children.
Not safe for work. They're just not safe in general. Actually, that's why just until about a couple weeks ago, I wasn't allowed to even touch our Gmail account. But
Still regretting it.
Still, hey, I've been good. But now can I do the outro? Am I allowed to do that now?
As you wish.
For the effects loop, I'm Diaz.
I'm Marissa.
And I'm Scott.
All right, we'll see you next time, guys.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Thanks all.